but I think healthcare captures some of those things. And Lynn Etheridge has been part of initiatives over the past 30 years, and in particular is really been a leading thinker and influential in legislation and a lot of the appropriations and the stimulus to help create what he calls a rapid learning health system. How the system, so this is not necessarily at the individual patient level, but how the system can get smarter, know what works, but not wait for 5 or 10 years for a randomized controlled trial to tell you nothing. How can we get better about that? So Lynn, I'd love to know kind of what is healthcare learning about this, and what might apply back to education?
Okay, and let me just make a couple of quick points. There's a handout in your material here where I've listed some of the many things the government's been doing the last 18 months and has got underway. Number one, we realized we had a slow learning system in healthcare. If you want to learn something, you typically have to apply for a grant and then spend 3 years collecting data. And it's even hard to find out what data is already there. And when you do find data, the research isn't comparable. So we're emphasizing the concept of in silico research, which is moving beyond, not replacing, but complementing in vitro and in vivo methods, the bench and the experimental methods, by building a national system of research databases that will allow us to learn much more quickly. So instead of a researcher applying for data and then having to do a 3-year study, we'd like to get a huge amount of personal level data de-identified in research registries and databases so researchers can go to their desktop and log on and do a lot of research very quickly. So much more data, many more researchers, many more studies, much faster. The 3 components we've put into here, and they're listed in a long range of initiatives, basically fall into 3 areas. One is building an electronic health record system for the country. The government's investing over $40 billion. Anish just mentioned that. So big emphasis on building the data systems and national systems of registries, some of them very sophisticated, linked to genetic databases. A second major emphasis has been on research initiatives. There's a comparative effectiveness initiative with $1.1 billion and a new agency that's been established to try to make sure we learn what we need to learn from these systems. And the third has been an emphasis on innovation. It's a $10 billion appropriation. That's $10 billion appropriation for the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation, where we're going to take what's learned from this research, build national pilot projects, and then roll the successful ones out nationally. So those are the 3 big things we've learned, and they parallel what Anish has been talking about, which is you got to build the data system. It's got to be protected in privacy. It's got to be interoperable. It's got to be the data that answers the questions you want to have answered. Once you've got to do that, then you've got to get the learning out of the data, and then you've got to have a system for doing rapid innovation and carrying it out through the system to apply those best practices.